All right, so next video, I finally made it home from the hospital. So it was 1 week post valve replacement surgery. I was able to make it home. You can pick up from my last video discharge. So uh, got home and you know got out of the car, walked in, had 2 steps to do to step up to get into the house, and those were the first 2 steps I had taken up outside of just walking, and so that was again a milestone, small one, but it was a milestone for me. But I just remember I came in and came directly to my room and just sat on my bed, kind of propped up, and just laid there for a little bit. And uh, part of it felt great to be here, and again, still uncomfortable, but it just felt nice to be in my room. And I already felt like, wow, this is okay. This I can do this. This is going to be great. I'm going to feel fantastic. Everything hard is behind me, which obviously is wishful thinking, but that's what I felt like immediately. Uh, you know, after I laid it there in the bed for a little bit, I was like, it doesn't smell great in the house. And so I was thinking, like, hey, my parents were here with my 4 kids, and they had taken them all out to the park. And I'm like, maybe they didn't take out the trash, maybe something. It smelled really bad, and I couldn't figure out why does it smell this bad? Because typically when you come home, you're like, oh wow, this even the smell of that stuff helps you relax. But I couldn't figure that out. And finally, I told my wife, I said, I think it's me. I think I stink that bad. And really, if you think back, I mean, I had a week in the hospital where I had 2 kind of light sponge baths, and one time I stood in the shower but didn't really wash. And I had like it kind of gross, just like buildup of like grease and just stuff. I don't even know, just on me. So it's like, okay, I need to take a shower, which again was, a little nerve wracking the first time. So uh, went in, and my wife had to kind of help me, but um, took that shower. One of the biggest things was just letting the water run down the front and not hitting on my incision. Um, but I just remember how great that felt because I had water pressure and I had a good temperature in my own shower. But I felt so dirty. I mean, I washed twice because it just felt so bad. And um, got out of the shower and I could kind of move a little bit. The warm water had kind of loosened me up, and I was thinking, man, this is great. And so I actually took time and shaved and just kind of got a little bit back to normal, and felt, like, man, this is gonna be awesome. So then I got out of the shower. One of the things that has bothered me and really bothered me then was I was absolutely freezing. My wife was having to wrap multiple towels around me and keep me, block the air vents and do all this kind of stuff. And again, I couldn't have done anything without her. So that was great. But so then I came out of the shower, had on clean clothes, sat back on the bed, and I'm like, this feels so much better. At that point, I had zero energy, and just didn't feel great, but I was there. And so she said, okay, now, she had to leave. My parents and kids came back. So, saw them at home. They had come to visit me a couple times in the hospital. I forgot to mention that, but it was good to kind of be back here. So my wife had to leave and go pick up my medication that was at the other pharmacy. And I started getting hungry, so I told her, hey, I texted her and said, hey, can you stop by McDonald's on the way home? I really am craving McDonald's. And so she did that, and I'd moved over to a chair in my room. Uh, I had a friend come over and help and move this recliner that I'm sitting here into my bedroom as well, so that way I had a place, a couple of places to sit outside of just the bed. Um, but I had that McDonald's, and it didn't. It made me feel good in the moment, but didn't make me feel great afterwards. But that was one of the things it just felt like I needed when I got home. And then so that night came, and tried to lay in the bed, and it just was very, very uncomfortable. I hadn't really laid flat all week. Tried to lay flat, that didn't work. I tried to sit up a little bit, and I could just feel this pressure, um, kind of, really chest up, and just the pressure and hearing my heartbeat and that kind of thing. I couldn't do it, and so moved to the recliner here, sat in it. And again, it was very strange because I was cold most of the time, but then I would get very hot, and it was just kind of back and forth between that. I didn't have a fever anymore, but just tough to get comfortable. But that Friday I didn't really walk anywhere. I just kind of moved gingerly around the house. And bedtime came, and I thought, man, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna sleep so much better. But I was in the recliner, and I took the oxy when I got home, and then one time in the night, and then kind of dozed a little bit, but just couldn't sleep, and got up on that Saturday morning. I kind of thought I felt okay, so I got up and I moved to the bed. I was sitting on the bed for a little bit, and then again, I think my wife had left that morning just to kind of go out and get a little break from being a full-time caregiver. My parents were still here, so I got up and I went to the bathroom, to try to do that, and that was another adventure that took me, 3 or 4 days at home before I was able to really get into a rhythm with bowel movements. And I think that's all just kind of part of the drugs and what they do to you. But again, just something I had heard but didn't expect and didn't realize that would play on you mentally and that kind of thing. But anyways, I went to the restroom that Saturday morning, and I got up and I noticed in the mirror that I had a lot of swelling or fluid buildup around my stomach and my hips, and where my pants had been, it was sunken in, and so it was kind of like a pretty hard hourglass. And I just remember that kind of freaked me out a little bit because my legs weren't swelling, my hands weren't swelling, it was just there. And I just snapped real quick. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go walk, see if this will kind of help this process. And so went out and did my first walk here. Again, summertime in Georgia, not a pleasant time to walk. The mornings and nights were better. Midday was almost impossible, but I do live on a cul-de-sac, so I was able to get out and walk with my dad. And I tried to walk for about 20 minutes. It was a very slow pace. And then, also live on a hill. And so when I got done with my walk, having to walk up the hill, I just, those first couple of days of walking, first couple walks, when I would make it up the hill and back into the house, I would sit down and it would take me 10 minutes to really kind of catch my breath and relax again. And so that was, somewhat discouraging because as I was walking, I would feel okay. But it was just a lot to move there. But anyway, sat down and just kind of realized, okay, there is the fluid there, but just keep moving, and I'm sure that will help. And then that moved on to, another walk later in the day. One of the things that I decided overnight was no more oxy. I'm going to get off of that. I'm going to just try to do with the Tylenol only. And as I would walk and things, my hands and feet would itch a little bit, and I didn't know if that was maybe a withdrawal type of symptom. I don't know necessarily, but that started a little bit on Saturday. Had a little bit of an appetite. It was nice to be able to eat, kind of home cooked meals. We had friends that had brought meals for us, which was a huge blessing. So, but again, having that Sunday morning or Saturday night, then get ready for bed. Tried the bed again, just didn't work, and so I'd taken a shower again, freezing cold. My wife was having to help me basically with everything, from getting soaked to just the whole process because I couldn't really move. And so again, that was kind of a rough type of thing. Couldn't get in bed. Sat in the recliner, and really just to kind of hit the overall, I could not sleep. I would be up in the middle of the night, and I would just move out to our living room, and I'd turn on TV, and I couldn't get comfortable. I couldn't lay down, couldn't sit comfortably. So tired. I think part of this is probably became the withdrawals from the oxy, because I think that's one of the things that it can do to you. But I just remember in the middle of the night, again, the nights are the worst because no one's up, it's dark, and just feeling miserable and thinking, well, how will I ever sleep again? Again, perspective is tough in the moment because it's just so uncomfortable. And so, that first week I did not sleep well. I would stay a little bit in the recliner. I finally got toward the end of the week where I can kind of prop up and start in the bed, but I'd be up every couple of hours, and then sometimes I would just be up for several hours at night, and that was really tough. But again, continue my walks. Really ended up going to 2 times a day because that midday walk was just too much with it being 95 degrees, and really almost put me out. But I was doing about 20 minutes at a time and walking. And that was a big piece of feeling better. Again, it took me a while to get my breath back, but as the week went on, I was able to push it and maybe walk 25, 30 minutes at a time, and had a little bit better breathing. The other thing, and I failed to mention it in the week, is the spirometer, the visual spirometer, using this. So again, I missed this in the last video, but I started using this in the step down unit. But I'd gotten it the week before my surgery. I decided, let me test it out, and good shape. I was kind of a runner, a lot of cardio, and I was able to basically fill the whole thing and get to roughly 4,000 on this. I guess that's lung capacity as I did my inhale. I remember the first time I did it in the step down unit. Again, still had the tubes, and it felt awful, but I could barely get to 500, and I just remember being like, wow, that is discouraging. So they had me on oxygen in the step down unit for several days because of that. But anyway, so I started working through that more during that first week home, and I was able to get between 1,500 and 2,000. Probably didn't use it as much as I should have, but when I would use it, that's kind of where I could get to, and you still feel that kind of tightness in the chest, but knew that was going to be good for me. We'll move on to Monday. Monday morning, I had to wake up and call the Coumadin clinic to get the appointment. And so I called at 8 o'clock, and the clinic that's here in town is connected to one that's about 30, 45 minutes away in another town. And the one here, the nurse that runs it was on vacation for Monday and Tuesday. And so the clinic that's 45 minutes away answered and said, hey, you can come out here, but she's on vacation, so you can come out here and we can do the test, or you can just go to the regular lab there where the clinic's located, and they can do a draw out of your arm, and we can have it tested and just call you back. And I said, that's what I'm going to do, because I don't want to drive 45 minutes. I was still kind of not comfortable riding in the car. And so I went in Monday morning. Again, I'd been on the 12.5 milligrams since Friday of the week. And so I went in, and they called back later in the afternoon and said, hey, I think I was at 3.6. And so everything looked good as far as, okay, this is probably the better dosage to be on. But she said, okay, well, let's get you set up with your nurse there in town. And so I had that set up for Friday to go back in there. And so continued on the 12.5 milligrams there. One of the things that really hit, I talked about my feet and hands itching. I think it was Tuesday morning. I believe I'd already had my walk, but I was just kind of sitting down on the couch, and my feet and ankles just started itching so bad. And I looked down, and I'm like, wow, they were kind of breaking out. I didn't know what that was, if it was a reaction to drugs or whatever. Had no idea. At the time, I was just taking one of my blood pressure medicines, aspirin, a Pepsid at night for indigestion, and the warfarin, but I didn't know if it was withdrawal symptoms. I had no idea what that was, but it itched so bad. But I got up and moved around a little bit, and it finally kind of calmed down. Well, then Wednesday morning, so another thing that happened on Monday when I went to the clinic, I went and made an appointment with my cardiologist. It's one of the things to kind of follow up, kind of reestablish with him. And so that was going to be on Wednesday afternoon. Well, Tuesday night, I took my shower, And again, my feet and ankles started itching and breaking out, and I started breaking out in different places, and it was just miserable. I mean, like it was almost painful. It itched so bad, and didn't know what to do. Didn't know what necessarily it was, and it was 11 o'clock at night. Um, so thankfully, we were friends with people who are nurses and pharmacists and those type of things, and they said, hey, Benadryl is okay to take. Obviously it could mess up uh, your warfarin and what that does to your INR, but you need to do something. And so I was able to take a Benadryl, and finally after about 30 minutes that calmed down and was able to go to sleep. Got up Wednesday morning and same thing happened, and so took another Benadryl because it was so bad. It's so bad that it's just painful. And I would get some breakout on my arm, my legs, feet, and my hands were a little bit swollen still. Just absolutely miserable. And I think what I've noticed throughout this whole process is I really haven't had pain in my chest. The part where they kind of cut you open and go in has been almost pain free, but it's everything else. It's shoulders, it's back, it's having my feet break out. There's always something that just you almost feel normal and then you don't. But anyway, so that was a big thing that happened. With that piece, and so I thought, okay, well, when we go to the cardiologist this afternoon, maybe they can help me figure out what's going on. Made it to the cardiologist, and as we were driving there, like I almost felt like my throat was closing up in my nose. As my feet were itching, I was breaking out, kind of freaking out a little bit. So I'd taken a Benadryl, kind of helped it a little bit, and so I met with the cardiologist, and we talked. He just kind of looked at some things, and didn't really know what would be causing this, and he said, hey, I would say go to your family doctor, your general practitioner, and let them tell you, because they can because he doesn't know why I was breaking out. So I thought, well, that's great. But anyway, so one of the other things I talked about was still I still had swelling throughout my hips and stomach, and my hands were swelling, and so he prescribed me a couple of days of Lasix just to kind of help move that along a little bit. And so immediately when I left there, I called my general practitioner, and he was closing in 5 minutes. But I said, hey, here's what's going on. I just had the surgery. I'm breaking out like crazy. And he said, come on in. So went in, showed it to him, and we talked for a little bit. And he was just like, immediately, he's like, anybody that's been in the hospital that I've seen for an extended stay will have this. He said it's probably a reaction to something that was on you, whether it be some of the medical stuff. He said his theory is the sheets, just because of what they wash and how they have to wash the chemicals they use. Either way, he said, I see it all the time. He said, I can give you a steroid, make it go away. We'll probably never know what caused it, but I can do that. And I said, yes, please do that for me. So left there and was able to go to the pharmacy and pick up both the Lasix the cardiologist had prescribed, and then also the steroid. And after a couple of days, the steroid did take away that reaction, which was a huge relief. So anyway, that was a big thing. Food continued to feel better about that. My mobility got better a lot quicker as I walked more. I was able to get up, move around a lot better. I still had some issues with constipation, but that kind of finally relaxed around Wednesday or Thursday, so a few days after I got home. But again, my back was hurting, so I would sit on the back massager. That helped. Another thing I have there, just the ache. My right shoulder, whatever muscle this is, exactly there, was so tight, and that my surgeon even mentioned that it was kind of like held up when I was in the hospital. Now, I didn't really feel the pain of it, but I remember on that Monday morning driving to the Coumadin clinic that I could feel it release and feel it would kind of tense up, and I could feel my shoulder drop. remember the relief of that. And there's been several moments of different things that it just felt so great. So like that was a big piece. Getting rid of the hives later in the week with the steroid was big. Um, be able to eat and walk again. That was all great. Again, a big piece that was a struggle during that first week. I was very cold all the time. I couldn't stay warm. Taking a shower was tough. Finally, by the end of that first week, I was a little bit better with showering. My wife was still there to kind of aid and assist on some things. But again, um, that was really what the first week home looked like. So that was, week 2 post surgery, being home. Again, couldn't get comfortable, couldn't sleep, just felt awful at times. But during the day, again, feeling better because I can get up in and out of bed. I can walk around. Those morning and evening walks were really great, mentally and everything as well. But as being off the oxy felt good to me because I knew I didn't want to have that for long term. And really the pain was, again, just in random spots as my body was kind of releasing. So the Tylenol would help that, but still not incredibly comfortable. So that's really, the big overview from Friday getting home until the following Thursday of being at home. So again, recovery moving in the right direction, still not as quickly as I hoped, and dealing with random things and random ailments throughout the week, but feeling better, having a little bit better attitude about things, but still, needing to sit quietly and just kind of be away from everyone, but able to watch TV or read a little bit, which was nice. So again, week 1 perspective on it is I could see a major change from leaving the hospital to that full week of being at home, and so it was a great feeling. And then I was scheduled to go back on Friday, so the start of the next week in my timeline to the Coumadin clinic again to have my blood work tested. So I'll pick up there for the next one and talk about my second week at home, which will be the 3rd week post surgery, and go from there.